everyone. Welcome to another episode of How'd You Get So Sweet, where we hold space for Black women to share their stories, their joy, their rest, their resilience, and all the ways they cultivate sweetness in their lives. Today, listen, before I say this, y'all, I've been having this conversation with this woman for the last hour and a half. So this is going to be a great conversation because we just be at it. Okay. I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down with my new best friend. Hi, Malliron. How are you?
Feeling better. Yes, I'm feeling better. That conversation we had, it was just like, it was what I needed.
I love that. Come on, sweetness. Before we even talk about sweetness, before we jump into this conversation, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Ooh, Malliron. My favorite color is purple. I'm a Virgo, and I'm from North Carolina. HBCU grad, Winston-Salem State University, go Rams. I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I also went to IU for grad school, but I go harder for my HBCU than IU. No shade to the Hoosiers out there. And yeah, I'm based in St. Louis, and I am really enjoying it, really enjoying the Black community. And I'm the founder of Baddies with Business, and also I have a consulting company.
I love that. First of all, not even first of all, second or third, I've lost count at this point. But you just said two other things that make me understand a little bit more why I love you so much. One, you say your favorite color is purple. So is mine. And two, you're a Virgo. I'm married to a Virgo. My mama was a Virgo. I am surrounded, by brilliance in the Virgo world. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I see now. Got it. Okay. And we do similar work in that we go hard for Black women and community. Yes. And that's why we've been talking for the last 7 hours. The number's going to increase as this conversation continues, y'all. And so, yeah, I love that. We're talking about sweetness and joy today. My question to you is, how sweet is your life right now?
Ooh, how sweet is my life? When I think about sweetness, I automatically think about sweet tea, specifically sun tea. So that's when you put, them tea bags in there, you set it out in the sun and you just let it do its thing in the summer. And then, of course, mama has put about 4 cups of that sugar at the bottom.
Yes.
you gotta stir it up. Okay. So I feel like the sugar is in there and I'm in the midst of stirring it up.
That's a good analogy. Also, core childhood memory unlocked. My grandmama used to make nothing but sweet tea, sun sweet tea. I remember, I can close my eyes now and think about it and see it. The pitcher, those little glass pitchers, it might have lemons on it, watermelons on it, butterflies. She used to have that, and it would sit, and I would just stare out the window like, how long is it ready yet? Ooh, now I want some sun tea.
Yes. My mama, she would use the big dill pickle jar, like the really, 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 really big one. That's what she would use. And I just be like, oh, and I can smell it right now. And even to this day, if I go fly back home tomorrow, mama gonna have me some tea made. Now it's not sun tea, but it's still, she's gonna have them tea bags. She gonna brew it on the stove top.
I love that.
I'm stirring in that sugar. Stirring in
that sugar. Ooh, I love that. What does that look like for you? Is it when you're stirring, or what kind of sugar is it? Is it brown, cane, processed white, which is fine if that's what y'all use. But what does that look like in terms of, is it sweet in terms of business, love, life in general, health? What does that look like?
Oh, that's good. I think to keep going with this analogy, growing up, it was the processed white sugar because that's what we had. And so the sweetness looked a certain way. And I think as I got older and I learned what sweetness I appreciate, it evolved. So dabbing in a little brown sugar, and I'm like, that's not quite as sweet as I want because that's not what I'm used to. And then I'm like, let me go around to the honey. And then I was like, ooh, agave. It's giving sophistication. It's giving, a little something, something.
I love that.
And so as I think about those, it is I was taught a certain way to love myself and to care for folks and to overcare. Overcare is in as a Black woman, or as I, kind of develop into my Black womanhood, because I think loving like a Black woman starts as a Black girl. because we have to love, we have to do all of these things. And so as I get into the place now, it is like, how can I take care of myself? How can I make sure that I'm celebrating those small victories, but also treating myself? So each workout that I do, I'm like, oh, I got to earn my chai. And not just like, oh, girl, you can get your chai. I can get my chai anytime. But it's like, that is my celebration of like, I made it through this 45-minute workout. And so I'm going to get a try. Do I always get one? No. But it's just like my treat to myself, or making sure that I keep, no matter where we visit, I'm going to get a massage. I'm always going to get a massage. And it's not going to be like, oh, the priciest ones with the hot stones and I'm wrapped in seaweed. No, it can be a very basic massage, but I'm going to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking walks. I am pausing when I need to. I'm resting when I need to. And so, not only thinking about the ways that I was conditioned to think about like rest and my sweetness, but now like, what does that look like for me? And so I know, when I'm home, I am saying, Mama, let's do something. Let's go for a ride. And so that for me is like a sweetness, because she's not leaving the house as much as she used to. Now she gets treatment. She goes to the doctors when she leaves. Like, girl, we're going to ride the block. We're going to Sonic and get a sundae. We're going to go do this thing that brings you joy. And then also knowing that like, oh, after I'm not home, like when I come back to my home, I then have to recharge. And like sometimes just talk to my dog for like 30 minutes. Is she going to respond? No. But I gotta pour into my sweetness, because she's like, Mom, I'm so happy you're home. So yeah, so it has evolved, from the white sugar, got a little cane, got a little brown with honey, and now we in the agave era.
Listen, come on, agave. I love that. A little fancy, a little razzle dazzle, I love that. When did you get to the point, or not when, was there a moment? Can you think of a pivotal moment where you got to that point of, here's what I know for sure about the kind of sweet life that I want to have, or wait a minute, I deserve, or I want more or better, or actually, we're not even going to say better, right? I want it all. I deserve it all, right? Like, how did you get to that knowing? Because I think it's a knowing that happens.
I think for me, it hasn't been a destination. It is a journey, and it's a journey that evolves and grows over time. So I think the first moment was, I think like when I went off to the grad school, it was most of my family's in New York. I mean, not New York, North Carolina. I have a sister that's in Newark and family, but like for the most part, everybody's in North Carolina. So when I decided to go off to grad school, that's in the Midwest, which I didn't know that was Midwest at that point. It was Indiana. I was the furthest west I've ever been. And people are like, that's not that far west. I'm East Coast girl, up and down. But before that, the first west I had been was to Western North Carolina. And to Tennessee. And so I think in that moment, I'm like, oh, you have gotten into this program and you deserve to go and test it out, to go try it out. And I think for me, it was, I'm going to go to this unknown land to develop myself, but also I'm going so I can go back and tell my people about it. And be like, oh, let me tell you what they're doing over there. This is really great. I'm able to do this. And so then I think that for me was a catalyst to, oh, let me start exploring more. And then I moved to New Orleans, and I was there for 7 years. And then when I feel like my time in New Orleans for that season had come to an end, I was like, well, I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. I want to do it in North Carolina. And I like took a chance with my boss. It was like, yo, I'm trying to move back. I've been applying for jobs, but I like this job. So y'all should pay me to do this there. And we talked for 6 months, and I left with a contract. Oh, never did I thought, and I never thought that would happen, but I was like, no, I want to do this thing. And so let me just put it out there. My mom was like, girl, you're going to get fired. I was like, I may, and I'm going to just move back in. So I don't really know, but I didn't have to. Okay. Yeah. It all worked itself out. So I think it's been, I don't know, as a kid, I've always been like, oh, let me just try something and see what happens. But I think that kind of like trying something evolved to, well, let me see what happens. I'm hoping for some good, but I don't know. And I think now that has kind of gotten me to this place of what is the thing that I really want, and where am I now, and how can I get there? And I may not get there, but can I get close to it? And so, yeah, that's just been like, I think like going to grad school somewhere that was outside of the East Coast was like the first kind of step. And, for me, that sweetness, that was in my refined white sugar sweetness of like, okay, I'm gonna just step out. And then, it kind of went from there. And that's not to say like, oh, I think the agave is above the refined white sugar, because I'm refined white sugar. I mean, put that in my oatmeal sometimes.
Okay.
So I be dabbling back, but it's just like now I've tasted the agave and I know like what the agave is like. And so then I know that there are options of things that I want to choose. So yeah, I think that like the risk that I took to kind of branch out was like the first thing of like, okay, now I'm reflecting, this is what that first taste of sweetness was.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You know what I hear in your story as you were talking, I was thinking about the little nuggets, right? And what I hear is, if you're to the listeners, right? Like, I think there's a beauty in that confidence around, let me just try it and see,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, because when you're not married to the outcome,
Yeah.
I think it makes it much easier to experience it, right? Like, I'm gonna just try this and see. What is that saying that people say, like, closed mouths don't get fed, right? Like, I'm gonna just ask and see what happens, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's see. And so I love that. It's a beautiful reminder that sometimes all we really need to do is open our mouths and ask.
Yeah.
Which is, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, y'all. We were talking about business, but it applies here, right? That's especially for Black women. Sometimes we don't want to ask for the thing that we really need or that we really want, right? Because we've just been so programmed to either figure it out on our own, handle it on our own, or I don't want to say that it's a level of not believing what we deserve, but on some level that really is what it is, right? Like, yeah, on some level deep down, there's something in us that doesn't fully believe that we deserve the thing that we are so afraid to ask for. So I love that. I love that as I heard you talk about this journey, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So she's asking for the thing she knows she deserves.
Yeah.
And I'm
And,
not married to the outcome.
and connected to asking. So I asked for that like role that was in 2017. 8 years later, that same person that said yes invested in Baddies with Business. So that's the same person.
Oh,
I never knew at that moment that that would be the same person. But the reason that they said that they invested was because they said, you are one of the best community cultivators that I know. And you also, like, you are very honest. So, like, I did tell this person about themselves in the nicest way possible. Before, people were talking about DEI work. Uh, but like we had those honest conversations, and I never imagined 8 years later that like that person would then invest. But it's because I asked and I was like, well, let me just see what happens.
yeah.
And if this person says no, well, I've been thugging it this long. I'm gonna just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yo,
And that's
that's
what
real.
I just like, well, if it doesn't, I don't know, if it doesn't happen, then it's gonna work itself out. And I think that comes from like the resiliency that I saw my dad, who like he only had a fifth grade education, and he was an older parent. So when I was born, my dad was like in his 60s, and so I just like noticed like all of his, it was a struggle. He was born in 1929, and all the things
Ooh.
he navigated. And so there was a lot of stories that I heard, but it was more like, I'm going to do what I can for my family. But it was a lot of like, I'm going to see what happens. I may not see the outcome, but you may see it, or your kids may see it, or the grandkids may see it. And for my mom, like she had a high school degree, but she worked, at a school bus driver and the cafeteria at my high school, and like all the things she navigated. So I'm like, I think I've always been around, even my siblings, they've always been like, we're going to try this thing out. And if it doesn't work, we're going to figure it out.
All right, we gonna figure it out.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out. So, yeah, I think that's that refined sugar that has like, it's been cultivating in me.
Listen,
I'm gonna keep going back to this, okay?
no, listen, I love this analogy. And that's what Black folk do, right? Like, we figure it out, which I love that. Man, that's beautiful. It also makes me think about the seeds that we plant, or that our parents plant, or our grandparents, or whatever the lineage is, right? Like, sometimes you don't see it immediately.
Yeah.
But when the seed that's planted comes from good intention, right? Beautiful intention, it always grows. You might not know what it's going to grow into or when it's going to sprout, but it
Right.
does. And that's where that faith piece, that belief that I think Black people, we have an insurmountable amount of faith and resilience in our DNA that allows us to do these things. I love that. I heard you say community cultivator, which I like that title, by the way. When you think about the community that you have created, which we're gonna get into that, y'all, because if you're not a part of this community, you need to come be a baddie. Just saying. But we can talk about that a little later. But my question to you, ooh, okay, I like to play games on here. We call them sweetness games.
Okay.
Your challenge. First of all, let me ask for consent. Are you open to playing this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I like to be.
I like a sip of water.
Okay. Yeah. All right, you ready? Okay. Keeping with the theme of sweetness, create a recipe for a sweet community, and however you define sweetness for you, right? Like, what's that recipe look like?
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the base. Well, the base. Okay, we're gonna flour. Okay. But this flour isn't like bleached. It's not. It's like a little roux. You know, when you starting to make the roux and it's like browned a little bit. It's seasoned. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's seasoned. Yeah, seasoned. And then there may be a little garlic in there because the garlic just it's a little something, get a little kick in your throat. There's a little onion because it might make you cry sometimes. They might make you cry sometimes, but there's still like a solid piece of the community. You will have a little bit of the sweetener, so whatever that sweetener is. I think it's great to have like a diversity of sweetener. So we might get back to that, some little refined sugar. We might get, I don't know if we're going to go agave because you're probably like, where are we going with this onion and garlic? But we just going with it. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with it.
We are going to have, some of our vegetables in there. And as I think about the vegetables, there are some that are going to be like, they're firm, like carrots, but they're nutritious. And so they're going to come in, you're going to think you can't break through that shell, but when you do, it's just like, ooh, it's just a little bit of sweetness we didn't realize we needed. They may be like celery. And so, they're holder. They want to be the point to like hold and cultivate and bring people together. And they may be just held together by strings, but still they're there and they're an important part. They may be the bell pepper, similar, I think, of the celery. So they can either just go by themselves and they're used to going by themselves, but they also can be there and they want a little bit of that feeling, something that's stuffed inside. And then you have those who are coming in that are trying to shed some layers. So maybe those are the onions. It's taken a lot of layers to get down to it, but when you get down to it, there's some sweetness that is there. There's like, it may be a little punchy, but there's still like a part of that. And all of that combined together makes. I was like, oh, we could go gumbo. Then I was like, oh, I want to go pie, but I've never put no fruit in there. So yeah.
What about your meat?
My meat. Okay, let's go to the meat. Okay. So we're gonna throw in, clearly you could tell I eat the gumbo. I don't make the gumbo. There we go. So we're gonna get some little crabs. And people always like to say like, oh, Black people, crabs in the bowl. But somebody had to put the crabs in the bowl. So let's
go there. Yeah.
Let's go there. Okay. Yeah. So we got crabs. We may have some that are like, but it's still like, I'm here. I'm bringing my uniqueness. Okay. Different than other folks. And so I may have those little claws, but the claws is because people have come at me and I might need to go like this, but they realize that they're going to put those claws down when they come into the space. The shrimps, they have kind of been on their own at the bottom. And now they're like, I am now a part of this and I can kind of shed that layer. We going with it. Okay. We may have some sausages. Okay. And with the sausages, like there's a lot of goodness that's on the inside, but it may take some time to kind of like peel back that layer. You might be like, girl, that's like an onion, but no, there's some layers and some flavors in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this.
And
I love this.
It started with a recipe and now it's just all of these ingredients because we will combine it. And I also think that there are moments where not everything is used at once. There may be moments where we need to tap into different ingredients to make different things. So
I love this.
yeah.
Can I help you out a little bit?
Yeah, you can help me out. Whew, please.
Okay, so because I'm gonna tell you what I heard here because we're talking about community, right? Also, I used to be a caterer. I used to be a chef, so I'm a
Great.
not used to be. I still. What am I talking about?
Yes.
I still am. But okay, so when I'm tying it into community, right? I heard you have the flour, the seasoning, the base. That makes me think of having elders in the community. You have to have community members that are wise, that keep the history, that know their role as the history holders, the teachers, the people that you can go to for wisdom or guidance, right? Like I think that you have communities have to have some kind of base. That's the glue that holds them together, right? I heard you say the garlic because listen, every community's got to have a little sexiness to it, and I think garlic is sexy. Okay,
you can never have too much.
never too much. Okay,
argue with somebody that's not me.
Okay, because we ain't here for that. It's not our ministry, right? So you have the garlic, the sexiness. I think there's. Let me not call it sexy. Okay, yes, sexy, but there has to be some kind of appeal, right? Like, why am I going to be a part of this community?
Yeah.
What is the draw? You have the vegetables. I want to go to this onion thing, the layers. An onion has layers and it brings a complexity. It levels up a dish.
Yeah.
Although if my sister is listening to this because she hates onions, which I just discovered last week. Sorry, sis. I can't believe you hate onions because I love onions. I'm put them on everything because it just takes the dish to anything you put onions on, it takes it to another level. But as you tie this into community, right? Like there's levels, there's layers to a community, and there has to be people in that role that their role is to elevate, right? To expand, to outreach. The vegetables in this case, what I heard was the diversity piece, right?
Yeah.
Diversity is important in the sense of we have to have some people who are soft and sweet and kind. Everyone should be kind, but there's levels to that, right? And then you have to have the ones that are solid, right? Like they get things done. And then the meat, right? Like sorry, trying to figure this out here. But the meat is what is the word I'm looking for? It is the essence, right? Like it's the essence of the community. It's the meat. Getting to the meat of the problem is what they're saying. Not saying that a community is a problem. I say all of this to say that I think for a community to thrive, you have to have these many layers and still all of them work really well by themselves, but they work beautifully together. They know their role, they know their purpose. Everyone serves a purpose. No one necessarily is better than the other. They all contribute to the greater good, which is the gumbo.
Look, we was getting there.
We got there.
One way or another, I was like, we getting there. I was like, I'm trying to remember what my homegirl put her gumbo. I was like, we gotta get there. So if you were listening, like, Malliron, have you ever made gumbo? No. But my sweet, sweet partner is from Louisiana, and that is the cook of the house.
You got there though. You got there, and I appreciate you.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you did. I appreciate you for even saying, "Yeah, let's go ahead with this game and make this recipe."
Okay. You knew where I was headed when I said, "Look, the flour, but we got to give it, a little okay?
Yeah.
And your wrist be hurting, okay?
Yeah, because it takes time, work, and effort.
And to the community piece, community is work and effort. It is not something that you can flip a switch and it happens. Like it takes time, and it takes a special person with a special gift and a special amount of patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do it.
Yeah. What do you love about, or what are some of your favorite things about building community or being in community?
Oh, I love the moment where there's someone that is new to the community. They come in oftentimes with no to very low expectations, which I'm okay with. And then they have this moment of like getting it. And they don't usually say it. It's just like, and they light up or they stick around. Like day one, they might peace out, But then, like, by day 2, by the party, they're talking to people. They're like Ubering to different places together. They've already exchanged numbers. They at the bazaar, they want to be beside each other. Like, that moment is like, because I could never tell you about this moment. Like, you have to experience it from yourself, for yourself. And also, I will never know the experience that you have because I am the person that is cultivating and bringing it together. I always share this, and I may have shared this with you, that it is not my goal to be the bow tie. It is my goal to be the spider web. It's also my goal to work myself out of a job or to work Baddies with Business. Like, Baddies with Business is no longer needed because it's been able to build this community that connects and relies on each other and builds its own recipe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that for me is like that. It almost brings a tear to my eye when I see that moment happens because it's usually there's no words. You just see it like, and then it just, that's it.
Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. You're so right. I say similar things about when we have events or retreats. I love to watch when women first walk in the door. They, maybe a little reserved. They may be not sure what's going to happen, a little quiet or to themselves, or they may have come with a friend and it's just the two of them, right? But by the end of the time together, you're like, oh, that's like now you got sisters, friends, family. Y'all are laughing, y'all are boisterous. Like
Yeah.
I love witnessing people come out of their shell because they've come into a space and they feel loved up on, they feel valued, they feel considered.
Yeah.
There's no judgment. That is a beautiful thing. I think that is a measurement in itself of community, of a successful community build.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I love
have
that.
to, in moments where I feel challenged by people who don't understand it, that's the nicest way I can say it. Um, I have to remember those moments because that is the moments that keep me going. Because if I relied on the people that don't understand, then I would not be where I am today.
Yeah.
Because those people try to tear you down, but you have to remember, like, this is why I do it. That moment, this is why I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out if we should go with the shrimp skewers or get a full charcuterie board. And you're probably like, Myron, yes, because are we going to have the brie or are we going to have the goat cheese?
Listen, listen, that's how I know you are a real event person because I'll be the same way.
Or I'd be twitching and they're like,
Yeah.
just make a decision. I can't. Are we going to have, a full breakfast? Or are we going to have just pastries? Pastries ain't breakfast. Okay. And it made me mad when somebody said it. Okay. Give me a fruit cup. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is listen, you are speaking my language, first of all. And I think it's also just a beautiful testament to the roles, like we talk about roles in a community, right? Like the holder, the cultivator, the host for is a more familiar word for people. That's true to those people, right? We're going to care about and consider things that seem like nothing to others. And honestly, to the others that it's like it's not that big of a deal because that's not your role in this community. That's not your job to think about those things. But I promise you one thing, I bet you days or years or weeks later, you're gonna be like, man, that Brie that was on that board,
yes.
you're gonna remember it. And so I love that you one care about your community so meticulously in a beautiful way that really, really does make a difference. And you're right about those people that if you listen to those voices, one, if you have those voices, that means you're doing something right, right? Because why else would someone waste their own energy in trying to convince you that what you're doing is less than or it doesn't matter unless you was doing something right? So if you take nothing else from this or in a moment where a voice is in your ear, remember me telling you that you are absolutely in your ministry, in your path. You are doing the thing. You are in your sweetness. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you to be in that. I love when I hear women talk about their lives and I'm like, yep, that's the sweetness right there.
That's it.
That's it.
That's that moment.
What would be something that you would tell another woman, Black woman, that hasn't quite arrived at their sweetness yet?
You're almost there. And you're almost there because we're like, oh, I'm going to give up. I'm going to go this other direction. I'm not in the right direction. And so like, you're almost there. I don't know if you're almost there is tomorrow, in an hour, in 2 weeks, but like you're almost there. So do what you need to do to take care of yourself, because that moment is going to come. And when it comes, you're going to be like, whew, I'm so glad that I didn't quit. I'm so glad that I like kept going. I'm so glad that I paused instead of like took the tape out. Okay, we're gonna go VCR. I'm glad I paused it as opposed to taking the tape out and throwing it at the wall.
Love that. Come on, VCR. Listen, we not ashamed. Okay. Yes, we are of that time. Okay.
Like, what is the VCR?
Yeah. Listen, if you have to ask me that, you listening to the wrong podcast. It's probably not the one for you. Okay. But yeah, I love that. Man, that's good. I have 2 more questions. One is, well, I'll ask that one after, or do I want to ask it before? Ooh, I don't know. So many choices. I will ask it before. So this question is about Baddies with Business. I want to tell people, what's your spiel when people say to you, what is this? What is Baddies with Business?
Yes. So Baddies with Business supports Black women entrepreneurs in years 0 to 5. And oftentimes people are like, why 0 to 5, Malliron? Well, research says that 17% of us are starting businesses, but only 3% are making it out of infancy stage. Infancy stage is year 5. And so that's a good amount of us that are starting, but something is happening between those first 5 years where we are not making it out of that. I believe that number is higher than 17%. I think 17% was based on like 2021, 2022 numbers. And I put money on it that number is higher, especially coming like navigating COVID. But anyway, there's still a lot of us that year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, we fall off. And that fall off could be, you may not be surrounded by the people who understand your journey. This is not to say that you don't have people that support you. They support you, but they don't understand the journey that you're going through. They may not have the funds. So maybe they started and they're like, I got $35 and I'm going to see what happens. Because maybe they don't have the funds. Maybe they're not trust funds. Maybe they didn't come from wealth. Maybe they got a little bit of money, but like they need to pay their bills and do other things, feed the kids, all of that. Or they may not know what direction to go in. So they have a little bit of funds, assume that they need to do a website before they even talk to customers, all of these things, but something happens and they decide to quit, throw in the towel. It's not for me. And so what Baddies with Business does is we are there to step in and support those who are on that journey. So before they decide to quit, to throw in the towel, the goal is that we are able to support you through community. So we have an annual retreat. It's like a big family reunion. We come together, we gonna party. Okay, we will have a party and celebrate, and you can be as loud through clothing and also vocally as you want to. We will have skills. So we'll have speakers. This year we have 23 speakers. They're going to be pouring into you from marketing to finance to, we have some young baddies that are going to be there that are 8 and 10, and they're going to be talking about how their mom has supported them to grow their business. We'll also be building community. So usually that first day I tell them you cannot talk about your business. And they're like, what do I talk about? I'm like, yourself.
Exactly.
Because before you had this business, you are you.
It was you.
When this business is over, it's going to be you. And so you get to know like-minded Black women together. And then we culminate the weekend with a bazaar. And so that's our version of a market, because oftentimes we don't have access to markets, especially when we started, we didn't have as many markets for that Black women were able to get into. And so this is a chance for them to come and vend at the market, make mistakes. Maybe their setup isn't how they dream of it being, but they at least get to put themselves out there and say they have done a market. So then they can go and participate in other ones. We also have an online community. So that is for folks like maybe they've come to the retreat, unable to make the retreat, and they still want that connection online. We have monthly speakers, book club, all of these ways that we are hoping to pour into the entrepreneur in a way that they need it. And not necessarily pour into them to be like, okay, you got this thing, we're dipping out. It's like, no, if you want to apply for a grant, can't promise you a grant, but we'll sit there and walk with you through the process. If you are thinking about starting a brick and mortar, but you don't have the funds to like test it out, you can ask Baddies with Business and we'll slide you some coins that you'll later invest in the community to be able to try it out. So all of it is that we can support you on those critical years to help you get to whatever year you want it to be. You may decide at year 5, this was fun, I don't want to do it, but at least you've had all the support to be able to get to that place. And the final thing is we have podcasts. If you're like, I want to be in the community, but I just want to listen to the podcast and be inspired, you can do that. There are 7 seasons, and you are on the most recent one where people can just listen. It's like being, I don't want to call it a fly on the wall, but it's like that. So we sit on the couch, sipping whatever drink, and just catching up. So that's how we support Black women entrepreneurs.
I love that. And yes, this one, let me say thank you. I don't know if I said thank you, but let me say thank you because you did have me on your podcast earlier this year and it was so good. It definitely was like sitting on the couch with my best good girlfriend, sipping on something. And it was so refreshing. It came at a time when I was just coming off of my mom's funeral, wildness from last year, all of the things. And I was still in a space of, are we still going to continue with Hollis Street or not? Or what are we going to do next? And so when you reached out to me, because in full transparency, people reach out often to ask, and I always am like, no, I don't really want to. There was something, I don't know what, it was very simple, but it felt, the energy behind it was so nice. So one, thank you, because that experience really kind of reinvigorated me and really was like, you know what, I've been talking about doing this podcast for a while. And after that time with you, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and launch How'd You Get So Sweet. So thank you for that, for being that inspiration, and that like push. The universe sends you exactly what you need. Yep. Sometimes it's through a person, and I think that that's who you have become. So thank you for that. Yes. I really appreciate it, and thank you for creating this community. It is definitely needed. It's absolutely beautiful. I am looking forward to being deeper in deeper community with you as the time goes on. I couldn't make it to this retreat, but please believe I will be on a few other retreats. So just saying. And so yeah. The way that we like to close this out is I've been asking the ladies who have been on here to share a sweet life mantra or quote that they love. It could be one that you've created or you've read before that has inspired you to live and be in your sweet life. What would you like to share with others?
Yes. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to pull it up. It is a word from the Lord, Audre Lorde. Okay. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid. And I love that quote because I feel like that's what I've been doing throughout my journey is like, I'm gonna see what happens. Like to me, if I simplify that quote, which I don't want to simplify that quote, it would be, I'm gonna see what happens and I'm just gonna step out on faith. I'm gonna believe that I have come to this point. I've been connected with this person. This opportunity has presented itself and I'm gonna see what happens. And then the more I do that, I'll become less and less afraid of being able to step out there. There still may be moments where I'm afraid or nervous, but that kind of coat of being afraid and fearful, it just kind of, it gets lighter.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Ooh. Also, you should put that on a t-shirt. I'm gonna see what happens. Just saying.
Okay.
All
the
ideas. Okay. Well, thank you so much for this great conversation. This episode is probably going to be about 40 minutes long, but we actually, y'all, have been talking for the last 2 hours. So
about 10, 15 hours, you know.
Yeah. Because that's what Black people do. You know, we be like, all right, well, I'm gonna head on out, and then 3 hours later, y'all still talking. Yes. That's what happened here. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Tell the people how they can get in contact or connect with you.
Yes. So if you are on the Instagram and Facebook, Baddies with Business, Baddies. Just cut this out because I just received an invoice was paid, and so I got really woo! And they are net 15, so praise be. And you can leave it here. But how you can find me is on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn all Baddies with Business. So BADDIESWITHBUSINESS. On all of those platforms. If you're like, Malliron, I have a question, send an email to baddieswithbusiness@gmail.com. Who will answer? Yours truly. And let me know what you're thinking. If you are in the North Carolina area, not just Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina area, and you want to pull up to our closing retreat party on May 17th at Missy Lane's Assembly Room, or you want to come to the bazaar on Sunday, May 18th. So the party's the 17th. It's going to be in Durham at Durham Central Park, and we would love to have you. And just pull up and say, Malliron sent you. I'll probably be at the door saying, what's up? Or dancing on the floor. So come dance with me. And I'm so proud of you. Whoever's listening, I'm proud of you for all the things that you've been able to accomplish to this point.
Ooh, I love that. Listen, I might take that and start adding that to the end of our things. I love that. Woo. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to all of our listeners. If this episode resonated with you, share it with somebody. Because listen, that's a part of the sweet life. Share it with someone who needs a little sweetness in their life. And until next time, may your days be filled with ease, joy, and just the right amount of sweetness. Later, y'all.